All right, guys, once again, good morning. And we started with data loaders, isn't it? So in yesterday's session, we have seen like how we can export the data from Salesforce and we could bring it to a machine, to a local machine. And majorly, what is the difference between the export and export all? Now, let's go further and let's try to learn how we can insert or update, upsert, delete. That means how we could perform the import operation. Now understand one thing. This is my suggestion, which I mean, from my experience, I'm telling you this. Whenever you wanted to insert, update, or delete, first of all, export a file. For example, I wanted to insert something inside account object. All right, let me make a login to your org first of all. So for example, I have a situation, a business requirement wherein I wanted to import, I wanted to bring thousands of data, millions of data, and I wanted this to be get stored inside an object of Salesforce, probably account. So this is something called as the import operation, right? Now this could be like insert, update, whatever. So let's say that with some external sources, I wanted to bring the data inside account object. So when you see this account, all right, is there any mandatory field you will have to take care of this? Yes. There is one mandatory field, which is name, account name. So if somebody were trying to insert a record inside account object, that record must have a value for this particular field. If you would try to save anything without giving the value to this particular field, it's obviously going to give it the error. Now, this is something it's called as, it is something called as preliminary check. So whenever you are trying to import something inside an object, this was just an example. I could take this with, let's say, candidate. If I wanted to bring 1 lakh record, 10,000, whatever mass record, I wanted to bring it inside candidate. So because we are transferring this from external source, we are going to transfer this from a CSV file. You first of all would require to check, you have to go to the object and check, is there any field which is mandatory? Is there any field which is mandatory? Now, I would ask you one question. Think of it and just think of it and then give your answer. Like if I would say you, like, for example, there are 10,000 records of candidate and we wanted this to be get inserted inside the object. Now, how to do this would going to be my part. That is how I'm going to explain you, with the help of data loader. I'm going to show you like how we can prepare a CSV and then how we can initiate everything and all right. So that is going to be my part. But as I'm telling you one thing, before inserting the data, you must go to this object and then you'll have to check it out. How many fields inside the objects are the mandatory fields? So what would be your step wherever, what are going to be the different places where you are going to see for this? The first is user interface. As you can see, it's in front of you. In front of you, this is user interface wherein I can see name and notice period and position applied, expected CTC and qualification. Out of every all other fields, these 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These 5 fields are mandatory fields. So this is my first impression. Is there any more place where should I go and I should check for like whichever is a mandatory thing? Let me give you this command so that you guys can unmute yourself now. Yes. What is something beyond this I have to check? What do you think? Think of it. एक बार सोचो इस बारे में. I'll give you one hint for this. Can any one of you tell me how many different ways you can make a field required in Salesforce? कितने अलग-अलग तरीके से आप Salesforce में किसी field को required बना सकते हैं?
5 different
five.
हाँ चलिए तो there are at least 5 different ways, right? हम लोग एक से पहले से शुरुआत करते हैं. Yes, what would be the first point? Anyone?
by clicking the checkbox.
By clicking, there is a checkbox called required.
Page layout, validation role.
One by one, please. One by one.
Visual.
All right. So the first technique is like required checkbox.
Right.
And let me include the second one as well with the page layout customization. All right. So whenever you make a field required, either by clicking that required checkbox or with the help of page layout customization. Now, one thing is common in between, like this red marking comes immediately onto the page layout for that particular field, right? ये हम जानते हैं कि अगर हम किसी फील्ड को रिक्वायर्ड बनाते हैं, फिर चाहे हम उसे रिक्वायर्ड चेकबॉक्स से बनाते हैं या फिर हम पेज लेआउट कस्टमाइजेशन पे जाके करते हैं, सो दोनों में अगर कोई एक चीज कॉमन है तो वो ये है कि जब आप उस फील्ड को आप यूजर इंटरफेस पे देखते हो तो वहां पे इस तरह का एक रेड मार्किंग रहता है। ऑल राइट, चलो तो ये हो गए पहली दो टेक्निक और वो तो यहीं से कवर हो जाती है। इफ यू वुड लुक एट इनटू दिस, you're going to see कि हाँ this one, this one, this one, this one and this one, they are mandatory. Now I'm not going to dig it out कि इसको मैंडेटरी आपने कहाँ से बनाया, वेदर आई मीन ये तो चलो ये तो दिस इज द डिफॉल्ट वन, बट ये जो बाकी के फील्ड्स हैं if they are mandatory from required checkbox or maybe from the page layout, I'm not going to see for that because मेरे लिए जानना सिर्फ इतना जरूरी है कि कौन से फील्ड रिक्वायर्ड है ताकि मैं उसका डेटा दे पाऊँ। चलो ये तो यहाँ से पता चल जाता है। नाउ द थर्ड पॉइंट वाज वैलिडेशन रूल। अब देखिए, if you would make a field required, I think in the count I have made few things required. Please go on mute. All right, so let me try to see view validation rules. I'm going to see in which object I have created, I don't remember, but inside in position or somewhere I have created a field mandatory with validation. I don't remember. Yeah, contact as a required field. So we created one validation inside this object. What is this object? Position object. So inside position object, I have made contact as a mandatory field. Now you can see that contact number is mandatory field, but it's being required from the page layer, from the validation rule. So what would happen, like, you know, when you come to this, for example, let's understand that we are importing 10,000 record inside position object. Now I came across into this and I'll see कि चलो ये कुछ fields हैं जो हमें दिख रही है कि mandatory हैं और इसके लिए if we are inserting the record inside this all these fields must have the values. ठीक है, लेकिन आपने contact number को देखा, it doesn't seems to be a required one. Why? Because there is no red marking. Still that field is mandatory. तो अब क्या होगा अगर if you would take only this into consideration, पहले दोनों point जिसमें आपने ये देखा कि जो फील्ड पे रेड मार्किंग है उन सबको आपने कंसिडरेशन में ले लिया and you would skip this. And let's say you are trying to import something where there is no value of the contact number. So as soon as that record would try to insert inside the object, now because there is a validation rule, making contact as a required, it would terminate your operation and it would going to give you the error. So as in best practice, understand one thing. Now see, this is nobody is going to discuss with you. I can straightforward take you and I can show you like how insert, update, delete. But this is not the way of teaching, right? I mean, I don't feel this is the good way. So if you are inserting, when you are exporting something, there was no prerequisite. There's nothing that you'll have to check it out. It is just like, you know, data लेके आना. उस वक्त उसमें कुछ देखने की आवश्यकता नहीं थी, तो then that's the reason I also haven't discussed anything with you all. But अभी जब हम insert करने जा रहे हैं, अभी जब हम update करने जा रहे हैं, that means we are trying to manipulate the data. We are either trying to insert a new record or maybe we are trying to update or perform the deletion operation. That time we have to take this all into consideration, especially with the insert operations. Because whenever you try to insert something, you know, you are actually trying to supply the values of the field. Now you would have to check it out कि fields जो हैं वो required हैं क्या. तो इसमें जो पहले 3 considerations हैं, you know, they are very important. They are very important. You must check out that fields are required either from page layout, either from required checkbox, or either from the validation rule. Either from the validation rule. All right. So this is something you'll always have to check it out. चलो उसके बाद ही फिर हमेशा insert करना. So I would do this with the account. So in the account there's only one field and there's no validation rule, of course. So this is the only field which is required field. और वैसे भी अगर आप record जब insert करते हो, in most of the cases, for most of the object, the name is what? It's a required one. The name in most of the cases is the required field, right? In most of the cases, the name is the required field. Chaliye. So let me now insert this record. Before inserting, I have told you, पहले एक export करके एक file बुलवा लिया करो. So we already have that file in yesterday's session. You know, I brought few of the files, and I'm going to use this one. So मैं काम करता हूँ. Let me just copy this, and I'll paste it out. And I would rename this as maybe account insert. That's it. All right. I'm going to give this name, and let me open this file. Whatever I wanted to insert, I'm going to perform that. I'll just going to prepare that data over here. But before this, before even I'll perform anything to this, let me first of all make a login into this. All right. So yesterday I have told you, like, if you wanted to make a login, it would require your username and the password, but password would be your password along with the security token. That is what we have discussed. So I would go with insert. Let me go with entering the password. This is the password along with the security token. How to get the security token, that I have already told you. You would have to follow the same process. What happened to my mouse? Yes. All right. So now, because I have logged in, and now I'll just go back and prepare the data from here. So ID, I'm not going to see. I'm going to remove ID from here. Why I'm removing ID? Because understand one thing. Whenever you would insert a record, all right. So the ID is going to be get generated. You know, ID is going to be get. So we cannot say that while insertion, this would be the ID. So we don't give that ID. Now let me prepare this all data. All right. So it would be like data loader 1. And what happens? Let me try this with the 50 records. All right. So I'm preparing 50 records. Ownership, public, for 20 records, and private from 21 onwards. All right. From 21 onwards, private. And then industry would be, let me take as banking only for everyone. Industry would be banking. For all of them, I'm just taking the same value as banking. Annual revenue value, let me just remove it out. Active status, let's say yes. Active status, let's say yes. All right. So for all of the 50 records, this is what, and see, this process I'm actually showing you for with like a minimum data, maybe like 50 only. But this can be done for up to how much? Up to 5 million records. So you could have a CSV, a big file, wherein you could have up to 5 million records, and you could insert that, you could update that. All right. So that is what is in capacity of data loader. All right. So I now have this file, one CSV file, comma separated value, and the name of this file is account insert. So now I would proceed with the operation. I wanted to do the insert operation. Now it would ask you on which object you wanted to perform this insertion you're about to attempt, which object you wanted to do this. So I'm selecting account. All right. I wanted this data is to be get inserted inside account object. So how many values are there inside account? Let me go back to this. So account, if I would go with all accounts, it's now having how many records? It's having 30. So adding 50 would give you 80. All right. Chalo. So I wanted this to be get inserted inside account object. So I selected account. Now select your CSV file. That is why I have created one. So I'm selecting this file, account insert, and going with next. Initializing Salesforce object and CSV file. Your operation would contain, see, now it has evaluated that CSV and it has seen how many records are there, how many rows are there. So it is giving you an information that this is containing 50 records. All right. Now this is called as field matching, field mapping. So these are the fields inside your CSV file. This you have to map with. These are the columns rather. These are the columns inside your CSV file. All right. These are the columns. Now it's asking you to match the columns I mean, what is the value in the actives in the industry? And so, okay. So it's asking you to match it with the Salesforce accounts object fields. You can either first of all, you have to go with create or edit map. And what you can do would be these are the file column headers. And here you can drag and drop something like this. ऐसा ठीक है. One thing is this, either you can individually, for example, active के लिए active को लाके drop कर दो. You can do it like this. Otherwise, you can do it like this. एक तो ये कर सकते हैं आप. दूसरा the better would be ask for auto match. तो इसीलिए मैंने कहा कि पहले एक फाइल एक्सपोर्ट कर लो. तो whenever you export a file, so these column heads would automatically get matched with the Salesforce field name. So if there's a button, see auto match fields to column. See what will going to be happen. The magic, if I would press this, fields automatically come across over here. So this is what happens. And this is the reason I always ask, कि आप जब CSV, see, if you wanted to import, first do the export. First do the export. And then export the file along with all those headers which you want, for which fields you wanted to insert the record. तो इसीलिए इंटेलिजेंसी इसमें है कि आप पहले एक्सपोर्ट कर लीजिए फाइल को. तो एटलीस्ट यू वुड हैविंग अ फाइल and the column names would match to the field names, so that you won't require to match it individually, and you can just simply take the advantage of this auto match fields to the columns, whatever. All right, so it would automatically going to create a match, and once it has been saved, you just press OK button, see over here, and then next. So it would going to generate two files, error file and success file. That is up to you where do you wanted this to be get present. I'm selecting the same path, or else I would be creating a folder. Let me see. So you have to select के ये कहाँ जाना चाहिए. So let me store this everything inside then this folder only. So whenever whenever this operation would get finished, it would generate two Excel files. One would be error, and then would be success. So success would contains all like what happens, the operations code and everything. Error would obviously contain if any error is generated during this import operation. So it would going to generate that. Nothing else. So it's pretty simple thing. So you have chosen that insert operation. Everything is just a warning, just an information. Now see, it's actually trying to attempt to perform the insertion operation. So process 0 out of 50. You can track the process progress over here. Like it would now indicate like 3 of the records out of 50 has been inserted, 9 and it's all. Let's wait for some time. So it would gradually going to finish this. There are 15 success, 20 success, 0 errors and all. So now what is happening in backend? The records of this CSV file, they are getting inserted inside Salesforce. They are getting inside into the Salesforce. All right, so all of your record have been processed. Now, usually it takes some time to finalize the process and everything. But meanwhile, I mean, if you want, you can go to Salesforce and you can see it over here. Now I'm going to refresh this, and this count, I'm expecting it to get increased by next 50. So it would have, see, 80 records. And now if I would go with the recent ones, I'm going to probably see all this data loader 1 up to data loader 50. All right. So these are those new records which have been inserted recently. If you wanted to see them, like I'll go with, for example, 24. So in the 24, I can see ownership as private. Whereas if I would go with data loader record number 1, or maybe 11, here we can see ownership as public, as you can see. So this is how, this is how we can perform insert operation. We can perform insert operation. Now let me show you one more, and that is update. So whenever you wanted to have the update operation, whenever you wanted to have the update, let me copy this file once again, account insert. I'll do this with, let me rename this file as to be account update. All right. See, whenever we wanted to perform the update operation, delete operation, particularly, or undelete operation, beyond insert, whenever you wanted to perform any operation, it could be what I did. It could be update, it could be delete, or it could be undelete. You would require something called as an ID. That is the most important thing. You would require something called as an ID. Whenever we perform, for insertion particularly, we don't require this. One sec. All right. So see, understand what I was saying. Beyond insert, for insertion particularly, you don't have to have the ID. Even hona hi nahi chahiye. Because ID is something which is automatically generated. For example, let me go back to the home tab, and I'll do one thing. I'll just try to let me try to edit this view. Recently, you cannot edit. I can do one thing would be one, and then maybe let me try to create a new view. Data loader, records, and creation, record creation date. One second, let me just created date equals to system.today नहीं चलेगा यहाँ पे, है ना? Let me try with this system.today. लेता है कि नहीं? No. All right, चलो manually करते हैं इसको, छोड़िए. I was trying to have one list view, but वैसे नहीं हो पाएगा. So let me do this manually. I'll go with all accounts and then day. Strange, very strange. All right, 1 and then 2. And let me pick up few of the records like four and 5. See, what I would be doing is like, this is my data loader 1 record. This is the ID, right? I would just copy this ID and I'll take it over here. So these are those IDs, these are those IDs which I wanted to delete. Let me show you that. So this was 1 and this is what? This is 2. I'll take this ID. Particularly for deletion and updation, you would going to require IDs, all right? You're going to require IDs. That's very essential. Arey yaar, why I'm closing? I don't require. I'm performing update operation. Let me not close it. And this is 4. I close that. Let me open that once again. 4 is already there. Just give me a moment. 2 and 1. This is 1. This is 1. This is 2. This is 4. And this is, let's say, 5. All right. I'm just taking the IDs of this. Now I would add a column over here, which I wanted to perform the updation. So let's say that there's a field called as phone. All right. There's a field called as phone. And you have in most of them, you can see that field phone doesn't seems to have any value. All right. So I will do one thing. Let me add one column here called as phone. And I'm going to give the value as 9900 8877 something like this. Okay. I'm going to give this value to every one of them. So all of them would going to have this value. Let me filter it out. You must have a knowledge of Excel for this, obviously. You must have a knowledge of Excel for this as well. Where is that? Format cells and numbers without any decimal ranges. 0. All right. This was phone. Let me do one more thing. The industry, as you can see, is banking industry. Let me make that changes as well. See, I'm trying to update the value, right? Accordingly, I'm trying to unlock the record. Arey yaar, 1 minute. Those all records, I'll have to unlock them. Because the industry was banking, so it has been pushed to approval process and they are locked. When I would perform this updating, it was not going to be happen. अच्छा हुआ मैंने देख लिया. The record must be unlocked. चलो ठीक है. Now I wanted this to become finance. All right. I wanted this to become finance. So industry value, let me select as finance. FINANCE. The spelling is wrong. A little manual work is over here. That's the reason it's requiring such a time. So let me proceed with this example only. So we have an Excel file. Let me now save it, wherein I have IDs of those records on which we wanted to perform an update operation. What is the update? The updates are like, the phone field should have this value and the industry should have this. You can increase some more columns if you wanted to have, otherwise you can proceed with the same. So this is that file by which I wanted to perform certain updation. So I'll go with data loader once again. And let's say there are maybe like 5 million records we are trying to update with this file. All right, that is the upper limit. Now I'm select on the update. It would ask you on which object you wanted to perform this operation. I'll go with account. Let me select that CSV called account update we already have created. And then I'll go with next. There are 4 records it has initialized. So it would ask you to match. I told you that this is like try with auto field matches. So it has taken this ID should goes to ID industry and phone. So that's how it performed this matching. Then next and finish it up. So it would try because you already have given the ID. So it would attempt to perform the update operations. All right, it would attempt to perform. So there were 4 successful updates and 0 errors. Now let's go back to Salesforce and see the data, whether it has been updated. So previously with this data loader 1, you can see that rating, the phone value is not there and industry is banking. Let me try to refresh and see what happens. So now the industry changes to finance and phone has this value. Similarly, let me go with the second one. Second one, you can see these fields are blank. Industry is banking. I'll refresh. Industry is finance and phone it has. All right. So this actually had happened with every one of them. This actually had happened with every one of them where you have given the ID value. So industry become finance and this is the value. Industry become finance and this is the value. So this is what is an update. So understand one thing, whenever you are trying to perform update or upsert or delete, I'm going to take all these examples, don't worry. you must supply IDs. You must supply, because when we are trying to update, upsert or delete, it has to be performed on an existing record. Insertion is something where after insertion record is going to be get created, and so the IDs would be getting generated. Before insertion, there would not be any IDs, of course, right? But after insertion, IDs are going to be get generated. So particularly for insert operation, we don't require to give the value of ID. Even if you try to give it, it's going to give you the error. But particularly for update, insert, and delete, you must have to supply whenever you are preparing the CSV. You'll have to give the ID, which are the records on which you have to perform the update or upsert or delete. All right. Now, in the next lecture, I'm going to talk. Next would be tomorrow morning. So I'm going to talk about upsert delete and hard delete. All right. So that's all for today. Any questions? Any questions?
So,
Yeah.
Sir, record lock कब होता है?
Actually, ये lock इसलिए हो रहा है because I have an approval process for this. This is not getting logged automatically. We created an approval process. So let me now show you that. So whenever we design an approval process, so what happens, like in the initial submission itself, the record gets locked. So because we have created an approval process, this one, account annual revenue approval process. So if you would observe this, so there are certain entry conditions like industry if it equals to banking and the active equals to yes. So with all of those records, आपने देखा कि industry banking भी थी और active status yes भी था. So that all of those records, they are submitted automatically for approval process. So and the initial submission itself, this is something which happens automatically and you don't have any control over this. Record जो है वो locked हो जाता है. But being an administrator, you have this right that you can unlock. No other user can unlock the records. It's only the system administrator who is having system admin profile. He could only unlock the records. And that's why, first of all, this is the reason why the records are getting locked. हमने जो ये records create किया, like these are the records. So not this one, but let me open with this. So these are those records where industry is banking or active status is yes. So that's the reason this has been automatically submitted for the approval, right? The record lock हो गया ये. And you can see कि ये approval में जा चुका है and it's in the pending state. अभी अप्रूव किया ही नहीं किसी ने इसको, तो whoever is the user, और वैसे वो हम ही है, मतलब इस केस में जब मैंने आपको बताया था तो वो यूजर कोई और नहीं था, हम ही है, मतलब हमने अप्रूवल के लिए दिया और हमको ही करना, बट रियल टाइम में वैसा नहीं होता है. बेस्ड ऑन द क्राइटेरिया इट गोज टू समबडी, राइट? तो इसलिए वो लॉक है रिकॉर्ड. बट बीइंग यू आर अ सिस्टम एडमिन, यू कैन अनलॉक दिस, और दूसरा कोई यूजर ऐसा नहीं कर सकता है. नाउ अंडरस्टूड? So this is the reason why his record is getting locked.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes. Any more questions, guys?
मेरे लैपी में वो डाटा लोडर का पेज ओपन नहीं हो रहा है, जैसे ही insert
कहाँ पे ओपन नहीं हो रहा?
मतलब वो नहीं क्या सर, आपने डाउनलोड करने के लिए बोला था.
हाँ.
तो मैंने सब किया था डाउनलोड वगैरह, लेकिन वो
आपका ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम कौन सा है आपका?
विंडोज 10.
Right. Tell me what you have done. First step number 1 से बताइए मुझको, क्या किया आपने?
मैंने पहले आपने बताया था वो डाउनलोड किया था.
हाँ, but क्या, I mean, did you go on to this website?
ओपन जेडीके डाउनलोड किया था. मतलब लेटेस्ट वर्जन वाला. फिर सेटअप एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर वो भी किया था.
So when you have downloaded, it goes to your download folder, right? So from there you just have to extract it. All right, do one thing. I mean, if you are not getting how to use this, just go with YouTube and ask YouTube like how I could install data loaders, right? Follow this. How could I install data loader? Okay, so go with this one. So there you would definitely going to find some good videos and step-by-step steps like how we can do this. All right, try with this as well. Yes, anything more, guys? You have 2 minutes. Nothing? Acha, a last announcement, even though if you would not be able to do this, right? Don't worry. Don't worry. I have told you, like, for those who doesn't have this Windows 10 operating system, so you don't have to worry about. I mean, after completion of this, I would be taking you to dataloader.io. That's a cloud version of data loader. And this everyone could access it, irrespective of what operating system you are using, because that runs on the browser, obviously. So everybody of us could run that. So I'm also going to make you aware about this. और अगर ये भी नहीं करना है तो मैं एक बहुत ही बेहतरीन टूल आपको बताने वाला हूँ, that's Salesforce Inspector. So you simply don't have to worry about anything. If you are able to install it, do it. If you're not able to install it, you just don't have to worry about anything. ठीक है? And I mean, if you would ask me, sir, आप क्या use करते हो? तो I use Salesforce Inspector always. I never use data loader. I not use dataloader.io. What I use, whenever I wanted to do anything like that, I always use data inspectors. Anyways, right? Chalo.
And sir,
I'll meet you. Come on.
मैंने मतलब एक्सपोर्ट वगैरह फाइल नहीं की थी, लेकिन पूरी शीट आ गई थी एक्सेल में, जैसे डाउनलोड करके नहीं क्या, वो सब आया था। मतलब मैंने फील्ड भी अपडेट नहीं की ना, पूरा आ गया था।
And I don't understand what you are saying and what is happening all around with you. ठीक है, तो ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं. Do whatever you are doing. Just continue that. No problem.